Hello, everybody. It's Brian here in Toronto with, you guessed it, a contest entry. This is for Alex at the channel called Beer and Vinyl, and it's for 500 subscriber mark. So I have to say, first of all, that it's pretty darn impressive that he has nearly 500 subscribers, considering the fact that he's been in the vinyl community for mere months. So that's really, really impressive. Now, in his own words, his channel is the sensational Alex Dudek channel, musings on vinyl records, music, beers, and bad jokes. And he's from Columbus, Ohio. And I will say, as we often do, you have to support the channel. He's a funny guy, entertaining, very nice to watch. I actually really enjoy his content. I do forget to comment on all the videos, but I find him very entertaining and enjoyable to watch. So you have until June 1st, and the prize is some records. Of course, he will ship those to the lower 48 states, but otherwise shipping becomes an issue, and so he'll send a gift card if you're international, like I am. So that's really cool. Here's the gist of the contest. Show 5 albums that remind you of people you love and or care about. So that's really interesting. Now, I only heard about this contest this morning, and normally it would take me a few weeks to get in on contests because I'm just slow moving. But I'm doing this now because without even really thinking about it, I came up with 5 albums that fit the criteria. It was very simple to do. So here we go with the 5 records. And the first one, I will say I've mentioned before, so if you've seen it, you can skip over it. The first one refers to my father. My father passed away. Well, in 2 weeks, it will be 14 years. So 14 years ago, my father passed away. And there are a number of albums that remind me of him. And if you've watched me for any length of time, you'll know that that includes ABBA. But this record, which is featured in Alex's contest as a prize, is Rumors from Fleetwood Mac. Now, again, you can fast forward this if you've heard this story before. But my father had a copy of this 8-track, which was given to him by my sister. And he had this habit of playing 8-tracks essentially all day. So maybe after breakfast or around lunch, he'd put on an 8-track and it would play for hours and hours and hours, to the point where some of his tapes were in bad shape and he had to stick a comb under the, if you know 8-track players, sometimes you had to stick something under the 8-track because there was bleed in from other tracks. He did this with ABBA as well. And ideally, like in the perfect world, I would probably be sick of this record. And, we like to rebel against our parents' music, but this one sort of stuck with me. And, maybe it shouldn't have, but it did. I never owned this until about 10 years ago when I found a copy in a thrift store. A pretty good copy. It plays well. So I do actually still like this record, and I cannot hear any of these songs without thinking about my father, because his favorite band was clearly ABBA, but this record was one that he really, really loved. So this record will be ever linked to my father, and that's number 1. So number 2, sticking with family, I'm going to talk about my sister. And I did a video a while ago in which I mentioned a handful of records that she and I heard many, many times in her room, because she had a turntable in her room. The only other one was in the living room, which was often hard to use because someone would be watching television or listening to something else. So we would listen to records in her room. And this record I probably could have included in the last video, but didn't for some reason. And that is the Rolling Stones. This is Some Girls from 1978. And if I had to rank Rolling Stones records, which I've never done, this would be in my top 5. This, of course, is the second edition, the second version without the celebrity faces. And this is a record I really, really love. And it was the first Rolling Stones record that I heard from start to finish. Now, of course, I had heard hundreds of Rolling Stones songs. Well, maybe not hundreds, but I've heard Stones songs hundreds of times in the car or on rock radio. But this is the first one I ever heard from start to finish. And I think there's that theory that the first record you hear from a band will be your favorite. Maybe that's true, but I think this is a terrific record. And I can't, every time I see it or hear a song from it, it reminds me of my sister because of, listening to it with her back in the day when I was a much younger person. Now, number 3, I will talk about a record that I heard first because of my roommate when I was an undergrad. at a university in Southern Ontario. And as I've said to many people, my undergrad, clearly, despite having children and whatnot, the best 4 years of my life, without question. Amazing time. And when I moved into residence, I didn't bring any records with me. I left them at my parents' house. And I had a cassette player with some cassettes. And oddly, that really led me to buying cassettes, which I regret, because I should have bought the records for so many cassettes that I had. But that's another story. But my roommate also moved in with a cassette player and a bunch of cassettes. And there were maybe 5 cassettes that he played frequently. In fact, some might say too frequently. By the way, his name is Kirk. I haven't seen him in a few years, but we've known each other for a very long time. And one record he played, it seemed like daily, was Under Blood Red Sky, the live U2 mini album. So I had a passing familiarity with U2 around this time. Like, I knew a few things, but this record is probably the U2 record I've heard most, even now after all these years, because he played it so frequently. Now, there were a couple of other things that he played that I'm not so fond of, but I won't mention those today. But this, it's the one I've heard most often, and actually I still kind of enjoy it. And again, if I hear this or see this, it reminds me of him. So that's cool. And then number 4 is going to make me seem old, so apologies for that. But I'm going to talk about a friend of mine named Keith. And believe it or not, Keith and I have been friends for 49 years. Yes, we've known each other since we were little children. And there's a funny story about, well, I won't get into funny stories because that would just take forever. But so we've known each other a very long time. In fact, we're going to Italy together. Our families are going to Italy together this summer. So, but anyway, there's one record. He had a small record collection when we were teenagers, or around that time, maybe older. Small record collection. And one of the records he had that he played every time we were together was Billy Idol's Rebel Yell. For many, many years, I didn't own a copy of this because there was no need to. Firstly, because he played it a lot, and secondly, I made a cassette copy of it, so I heard it there. But this was clearly his favorite record, and I do like this record. Oddly, I just heard yesterday that there is a 40th anniversary edition coming out of this, which includes a couple of tracks that were recorded but never used for this album, and then some early versions and demos and things. I'm not sure I'll get that, but I did listen to the 2 tracks that weren't included on here, which are pretty good. So I cannot think about this record or hear any of these songs from Billy Idol without thinking about Keith. In fact, I saw an interview with Billy Idol yesterday, and all I could think about was Keith and this record. So I wonder if he still has it. He said his records ended up in an attic somewhere. So I guess I should find out if he still has this one. But yeah, I think this is a pretty solid record. Clearly, probably his high watermark in terms of success. And I couldn't really do a video about people I care about or loved ones without mentioning Cecile. And if you watch this channel, that's my partner. And when we met, as you do, you inevitably end up talking about music that you like, see if there's any common ground. We're slightly different ages, so her music is a bit more 90s, I guess. And but we were talking about music one day, and I managed to rhyme off lyrics to this song, and she was kind of surprised surprised that I knew anything about this track, let alone the lyrics. And I can see why, looking at me and considering this record, you would probably feel the same way. But it's DJ Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock. It Takes Two. Now, I could give you a long and possibly funny story about the first time I ever heard this track. This is from 1988, but I'll save that for a different day. But It Takes Two was kind of a juggernaut back in the day, very popular driving track. And I don't know, the video is hilarious. Oh, by the way, this is the 12-inch single. In Canada, they ship these to us in this generic black sleeve, but in the other parts of the world, they got a printed 12-inch single sleeve. I don't know why we got this one. This just has the album cut and an instrumental version. So the reason, apart from the first time I heard this track, I was hanging out with some people who were interested in rap and hip-hop music, and the radio station I was listening to at the time kind of had some format experimentation, and they did include some at the time current hip hop, the classic era with LL Cool J and Run DMC and that kind of thing. And they did play this track, as I recall, and it's funny. It's a great track. And I still like it today. So sometimes we'll put on the video just for a lark, just to see it, because it's so funny. But I think she was very, very surprised that I like this track, and so I can't really listen to this without thinking of her, because it's really funny. And that's it. So definitely check out Alex's channel. I think you'll find it entertaining. Give him a subscription. That sounds funny. Subscribe to his channel. And I will see you in the next video, whenever that is. Talk to you later.